Good evening. Off the cuff streaming time. Neither of us know what we're doing. I've just been talked into opening the dubiously strong Japanese beer as opposed to the sort of light and peachy one from M&S, which would enable me to think straight. So I don't thank the man on the screen. We both hit buttons. How are you, Danny?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks, mate. I don't want you thinking straight when I'm not going to be able to think straight later, do we? We need to both be in this together. Yeah, I'm a bit scrambled. I need some time to think. Hopefully this little chat will help a little bit. Kind of decided to wildcard yesterday, basically, and then I've been working all day. Just got home not long ago and opened a beer. I think I've got a sort of an idea of what I want to do in my head with wildcard. I don't know how happy I am with it, but it is what it is now. So yeah, it'd be good to chat about it. How are you doing?
Yeah, very wise. Yeah, it's a funny one. I probably like you. I didn't expect to press the button. And I think the only tactic I had for the rest of the season was really to avoid this. But various things conspired against me. For me, it was a combination of no goalkeeper for a while, Dango becoming unchained, and yeah, thank you, and all sorts of other things. But yeah, Cliver this week as well, wasn't it? Gabriel, I suppose, as well, which enables us to get a bit of a jump on a few people, but it's not ideal. Yeah, so it's a tricky one because I'm not especially happy about it, but and I'm guessing you're not either. So we're grumpy wildcarders in some respects, but yeah, what pushed you over the edge in the end? Was it? I think from what I've seen, it's more the uncertainty about post 34 that that's maybe just tipped you a touch. Is that fair?
Yeah, I mean, I still think it's a lot of people sort of suggest or have suggested a while ago that the sort of wildcard 35 or 34 is dead, and I don't think that's the case. I still don't think that's the case. I think still think it's very reasonable. Yeah, because I was sort of set on that for a while. My team looked good for it, so I was originally on basically, playing through. I was going to bench boost 32, free hit 33. My team was good in 34. A little bit fragile, which is another. There's many factors that come into play. A little bit fragile in the sense that I probably wouldn't have had anyone on the bench in 34. So it's a little bit tight. And then I would have wildcarded in 35, which for a long time I wanted to do because I've said for ages I didn't want to just fall over the line with the team. An early wildcard team set out for kind of bench boost and all that sort of stuff. And obviously there is still uncertainty around that kind of 36, 37 and so on. And it was also about, it was just like the fringe players. You want your squad to be good around those players who might double in 36 and everything, blah, blah, blah. But yeah, it was just enough to tip me over the edge. I mean, I've had a few injuries. Obviously, Gabriel injured this week. I've got Cliver as well, and that's looking worse now than it's looking like he's not going to play this weekend as well, isn't it? So there's definitely something up there. I mean, he might just be like super tired, having had a kid. Who knows? But he doesn't look like he's even playing this week, and you just don't know how long that sort of thing is going to last. So I was down to obviously Alisson. I'm sure Alisson will be fine, but even Alisson as well. And and just the last thing to say, it's not just the injuries. It's actually about what chips I've got left, and it's about that uncertainty as well. So I've still got all the chips. Still got bench boost, free hit, triple captain and stuff. And I guess I was just kind of thinking, I'll let triple captain take care of itself with someone in that late double game week. But yeah, with all the injuries, I just think. That balance of having the freedom to wildcard in 35 and choose everyone from afresh and end the season strongly and with players you want has just been a little bit outweighed now by having enough of a better bench boost in 32 and obviously on paper potentially a better triple captain because we know we've got a choice between City and Arsenal and stuff, haven't we? Players like that. So yeah, just made the call and I'm just going to go front heavy rather than back heavy, but we'll chat it through. What about you? You had more injuries than me, didn't you?
Yeah, I mean it's a very similar situation except for, I suppose. Okay, so Wood was a bit of a factor as well because I never intended to ever lose him for any reason really. It was one of those kind of perma stays along with Milenkovic. Those two have really kind of carried me for quite a long time as just those really lovely kind of background picks that you don't need to think about. And that was a bit of a blow, really. But that, and yeah, as you say, I've been without a goalkeeper for 2 weeks because I wasn't really keen to take more than a hit in 29, and I took Dango to Bruno, which is a rare good decision on my part, and then left the goalkeeper, and then of course he continued to be out in 30, even though he was reported to be back in training. So no bitterness here. But yeah, that was a bit of a blow. He seems like he's probably. I mean, even now it's not obvious that he's definitely playing this week. He probably will, but yeah. So there's that, and I know that we were hit by the Trent thing as well because that was again not part of the plan to play through to 34, 35 as well. So all of these little things have snowballed a bit. I know it's the same for a lot of people, but wasn't really keen on last week. That ended up to be an okay decision, didn't it? Because obviously, lovely Brian scored. We can talk more about him later. Lovely Brian, and yeah, so didn't turn out too badly that week in the end. So that's some good news. But yeah, I guess we should pretty much crack straight on with it, and have a look at these. Have a look at a couple of drafts. I should definitely say that neither of us are remotely set because it wasn't particularly well planned on our part. I speak for myself, Danny. I don't know about you. I think I might have pushed the button a little earlier only because of the extra injury, really. But yeah, it became obvious, didn't it, that it was quite hard to plan for the future, really.
Yeah, and I mean, the button's pressed for me now, which is one thing. So it is what it is, and it is one of these things that could go either way. So I'm perfectly happy with the decision, and I think actually a lot of the places pick themselves, really. I think, or at least for me, you know, which helps because yeah, I need to figure it out tonight and get up early tomorrow, and you know, not be hungover and stuff, and I want to be sure, you know. So I do like. I normally like more time than this. I like to think things through and let it simmer all week. But like I say,
yeah,
the key sort of attackers and stuff are kind of settled for me. Whether I'm comfortable with them or not is another question. But yeah, there's definitely stuff to talk about that I'm not sure.
By the way, just for one FPL chap to another, I have an old kind of work colleague who's swanning into the local area to meet up with me tomorrow. Bit of a sort of Kew Gardens and lunch and all that kind of stuff that you do around here. And I managed to push him to 11:30 arrival time because, you know, it's one of those things. I was like, no, do not come earlier. It would be a nightmare. I haven't given a reason. There's no chance that he's going to watch this, so I think I'm fine. But that was quite important to me. Push him back.
Yeah,
but there you go.
Cancelled until 11:30, like I say, or 11. What is it? 11? 11:30? I don't know.
Yeah, 11 tomorrow. Just a quick hello to anyone who's joining us. I know that's, you know, let's be honest, we hadn't really planned too well for this. So if you are here, very kind of you to join us on this little jaunt. So hello to Sam, to Michael, to IM1974, anyone else that's in there as well. I can see a few people. So great to have you join us. Let's have a look at one of, if I can get it up. I will pop that on the screen there. Sorry, a bit of a carry-on moment. So I'll put one on there in just a second. No, that's the wrong one. That will do. Okay, hopefully that's on there. As you know, the graphics quality and everything that we do here is absolutely shocking. So I'm not going to.
Top notch.
That's probably terrible, isn't it? Can I zoom in a bit more?
Can I ask a really silly question? Do people sometimes post like a draft like this, like with the app, where it looks like the actual game, but they haven't actually picked it yet? Because how do I do that? Because I don't like looking at other. Obviously, FPL Team is great, but when I want to look at the actual app sometimes, like when I'm wildcarding. But you know, when you see people like send a draft, but they haven't actually picked it yet. How are they doing that? I don't. You know, they haven't actually confirmed the transfer, or does that happen? I've always wondered, and I'm like, what am I missing here? I don't know.
That feels like someone in the chat can answer you better than me. I am just a humble.
Really,
I'm the, you know, as you know, from many conversations over a while now. I'm more of a book smart kind of guy. Screens are not my thing, which is why I decided to host a podcast. No, yeah. But anyway, we have now. There's a very good chance that you probably can't see what's in front of you because I'm crap at this. But it's 2 blokes beer Friday afternoon, so cut us a break. I'll read out this one. It's 0.0 in the bank, and I'm annoyed that I can't afford it. But here we go. Anyway, Raya in goal, Livramento, Munoz, Saliba, Palmer, Itzar, Salah, Eze, Saka, Isaac, Marmouche, and on the bench, Areola, Pedro, Cher, and Milenkovic. Yes, there's some interesting things there. I think, first of all, most people eyes would be drawn to a couple of minor surprises there. One of them would be keeping Palmer, because I think a lot of people who wildcarded this week might not. Avoiding Mateta. That's, I suppose, quite popular. Unusual to hang on perhaps to João Pedro and Milenkovic as well. So there's a few things there. Where do you want to start? Where do you want to start? This is freestyle, as you know, so there's no rules other than
freestyle. So just stop me, because I'll go on a ramble like I do, and sort of stream of consciousness stuff. Where to start? Obviously, first of all, this is not a final draft. I was piecing stuff together yesterday, and especially when I'm on Wildcard, I like to just kind of piece together price points and what I've got. Like Share, for example, I won't necessarily pick Share, but that's maxed out with 0.0 in the bank, so it gives me a bit of an idea. I mean, I guess I've got quite a lot. People are probably shouting at me watching this, but I think I've probably got quite a high team value. I was looking last night, and it's over 107 in the actual app thing. So, but I've generally held on to people for a long time. I think that's why. Obviously, I didn't sell.
Yeah, it does count, by the way. It does count because I'm a few pennies down on you, I'd say. But equally, there are plenty. I think I saw someone earlier today who said that, I don't know what metric they're using, but they were below 100 in their team value. So.
Wow. Yeah. So they're basically like removing all the players, aren't they? And they're talking about
that kind of thing. Yeah.
But still, that's impressive. I'm always impressed by that sort of stuff, because obviously it indicates that they're not making early transfers every week just on the base of prices, which I obviously don't do, but I just do it strategically, and I definitely did it. I was definitely more aggressive this season with prices than probably ever before. And again, one of the reasons for that was I think we touched on it when we were talking about the pod with Alan, didn't we, on FML last week? This season, I just went into things a little bit differently, in the sense that it just felt like it was going to be so punishing, so swingy, so unfair, so many, and that one of the things I could control at least was some element of team value. So I was a little bit more aggressive than normal. And sort of it sort of comes with also being decisive. It's not about being aggressive, but it's about, again, we talked about your process and how you deciding what you want to do and blocking people out like I often do, and so being decisive and going early. So take, for example, because I was obviously looking at Cliver yesterday, I guess, because obviously I was seeing if I'm going to lose value when he drops in price like he did last night, and I was shocked actually. It says that I got him at 5.55 or 5.6, and he's and I remember the week though. It was kind of suboptimal to go that early, but I just felt like I knew I wanted Cliver. You probably remember it because it was the week. I think you.
We'll put it this way. I think you got him in
the week after and go Dango because you had a bit less money at the time.
Yeah.
And I went very early because I had exact money, but I just felt like I was only really comfortable with Cliver. It was just an example where that was the decision. I only wanted Cliver, so going early has just ended up getting me loads of extra money, because he's it was 6.3 or 6.4 now. So yeah, got quite a bit of team value. I mean, so where to start? I mean, what's interesting for you? Because I mean, for me, Salah was always going to stay in, and I know he is debatable. I'm pretty sure I've seen some people wildcarding this week, and there's probably some souls on things like FPL review and stuff that maybe don't have Salah in and stuff. He's staying in for me, not just because not just because obviously believe in the player and the season he's had and stuff, but it's also just, it's a bit like game week 1 stuff, isn't it? Yeah, I don't need to commit to going no Salah and not having that price point and giving myself a real struggle to want to get him back in if he just carries on being Salah. So he was always going to be in for me, and then Palmer was always going to be in. But I think one of the, again, like just to finish my initial ramble, was that when I first explored Wildcard last night and thinking about, yesterday morning or something, I was actually surprised that I could afford what I could afford. And again, so I didn't really know that my team value was that good. So I suddenly like, oh, so hang on a minute, I can get Saka in early, maybe, but keep Palmer and keep Salah, and even get the Palace guys and stuff. So that's when I got more interesting. So it's built around that a little bit at the moment. So the pillars, the people who won't move, that I like to have those price points, I like to have those players. Salah is there, Palmer is there. Saka, I'm not sure. I'm not sure whether I'll start with him or not yet. I'm not sure whether I'll start him either, even if I do. Might bench him. I need to think about that, how many minutes he's going to get, and Isak was obviously locked, and Marmoush was locked. And I quite like João Pedro. Where do you want to start before I go off on more?
Yeah. Okay. So first of all, just to clarify, anyway, you're setting up for. I know that you're not big. Neither of us are really, but you're particularly not big on making exception for the importance of the bench boost. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I mean, I'd like it to be solid. I like a mix of it being solid and it also keeping a good structure. And that's definitely a discussion point, because, for example, even if you look at that team there, like I'm currently planning to bench boost in 32. And I think maybe most people, so as an example of that point, maybe most people wouldn't have Areola because he's playing Liverpool away in 32.
Yeah.
Whereas I probably will. I probably will, but because obviously I could. I mean, and again, shares there. I probably won't have share. I don't think he's worth it over someone like Burn. It was just kind of price point, So that could easily be Burn, and then, for example, have more money in a keeper. I could have the Forest keeper and something like that. But that does change structure quite a lot, So, for example, if I was to change Areola to someone like what's his name at Forest, Sells or something like that,
yeah,
it's almost $1 million more, which I'm not hugely bothered about with only so few weeks left. But you're effectively taking £1 million out your team, to have that better keeper on paper for 32, and then maybe even 30. 36 if they double. So I guess we'll come on to that, because it could be Forest and West Ham who double instead. And they've got a better double as well in 36. So there's definitely an argument there, because you're potentially getting 3 better fixtures ourselves, but having £1 million less in your team. And actually, it's goalkeepers, isn't it? It's just goalkeepers. They're so hard to predict. I mean, Areola could just save a Salah penalty in 32, or he could get a load of saves. And obviously, I'm not that hopeful, but I'm okay with that. Basically, to answer the question is, at the moment I feel all right. 4.2, isn't he, or something? So, and
it is,
Ham are looking pretty solid in defence as well, aren't they? Your boys, they're looking organised anyway.
I think there's. Whether I would describe it as solid, it's more that
that win against Arsenal, which was a few weeks back.
It's a rarity, yeah.
I know, but I mean, to be even capable of that, I mean, it says a lot about Potter, doesn't it? To be even capable of that, it was an outrageous result.
Yeah, no, I remember it well for obvious reasons. Not least, I was on Arteta, assistant manager. But yeah, we do. They are sort of compact, pragmatic, very, very bad to watch. It should be said, really. But yeah, they are capable. They are unlikely to get spanked, if that's what you mean. Yeah. They'll make it robust enough to lose by 3 goals as opposed to 6, probably, if that's what we're going with. But yeah, it's not a great watch at the moment. It's starting to get a bit of criticism, but that doesn't matter for your purposes. Can I just ask though, what was your what are the main reasons for your lean away from Villa, 33, all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, so again, I need to think more about this. So if anyone's listening thinking, yeah, that's wrong, shut up, you're talking rubbish kind of thing, I apologise, because I need to think more about this. But obviously, I'm planning to bench boost in 32, so I'm less interested in the Villa guys for that reason, for one. Because I know they've got Southampton, but obviously you've got that potential rotation, isn't it? Because is it in the middle of the 2 PSG games?
It is, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so they serve a double function, Areola and Milenkovic, for example, for me, in the way I'm thinking. So, first of all, yeah, quite like the fixtures in 32. Forest have got Everton at home. Obviously, Areola hasn't. He's got a crap fixture, but Milenkovic is my boy, and he's been brilliant. And I've just got a lot of faith in him. Some players, I'll just carry on freestyle for a second, but there's some players that you just have faith in to just keep doing the business. But well, I suppose what I was going to say here might be relevant to what Rich is thinking, but they serve a double purpose in the sense that the Forest guys, obviously, basically, Forest and West Ham could. Sorry, I was just saying, Rich, and I thought I'd actually wait for you almost in this bit before. But,
Fine, yeah.
I was saying this sort of serve a double purpose because you've got them for 32, but also. This is kind of a hedge. I don't want to use that word. It's funny because I was talking to Baker in like a group chat a few weeks ago, and we were talking about hedging. The fact that I never use that word in FPL, and I don't. And this is, but what I'm going to say here is a different type of hedge, in the sense that obviously, in terms of that 36, where we expect that other double to go, who doubles basically is based on who wins out of City versus Forest, isn't it? In the FA Cup. So if City win, as we expect, City will double probably in 36 or whatever it is, 36, I think 36, not 37. Whereas obviously if Forest win, Forest double. And Forest play against West Ham. Now, I quite like it with the Forest and West Ham because basically I plan to probably get to 33. So this is Wildcard for 31. I plan to hopefully, all things being well, make 2 transfers in 33 to get 2 more doublers, which could be 2 more City players. It's very likely going to be at least 1 more City player. So say Vardiol, but it could be Vardiol and Savinho or something like that. So you end up with 3 City and 33 for the double, for example. And we don't know yet who. Obviously, the FA Cup game is in after the 33 double, isn't it? So we don't actually, it's in game week 34, isn't it? So we won't know in 33 who's going to double in 36. But I'm very happy to hedge between the Forest and West Ham because I don't think any of us are going to get to game week 35. Or, very few of us are going to get to game week 35 or 36 with more than 1 transfer, for the double.
Yeah.
So I don't necessarily want to have more than 4 doublers, say, for example, in 36, if there is a double there. Because obviously you've only got 1 transfer to take them out in 37 to field 11 players. So I'm not too bothered about having loads of doublers in 36 if you've got to take hits to field 11 the next time out. So it's quite nice that you can basically back City for the double in 33, who are more likely to win and then double in 36. But if they don't, they go into 36 with nice fixtures anyway. I think it's like Wolves at home. And you then automatically got, for example, Areola and Milenkovic on the bench who would double. So it means that in a situation where you don't really want more than 4 doubles because you're not going to have more than 1 transfer, you're not bothered about having more than 4 doublers. Anyway, it means that you basically guaranteed either 2 or 3 kind of thing. So I think that's why we've seen. Again, I've only looked at it yesterday. That's probably why we've seen a lot of teams, a lot of wildcards go in with Areola and maybe a Forest defender. Let's just be the exact same rationale. So I like that a lot. And then obviously that just basically means on paper potentially just having no Villa at all now, which is possible. I could get 1 in 33 maybe, but
yeah,
they're so hard to pick from one, aren't they? And I don't really trust the defense. The defense has looked a lot better recently. I think because we've got I think we've seen a bit of consistency in terms of Mings and Konsa playing at centre back and the team just gelling a bit more. They've looked better defensively, but I don't trust them defensively. And then obviously they've got all these fixtures and they've got focus on Champions League and I've just got no idea at the moment who's going to start which game to the next. And obviously Rodgers is the one who's got the better minutes, but he's also the one who's been pushed out wide a little bit. And his returns don't actually look as likely, even though he got an 11-pointer last week. It was just like 2 assists, wasn't it? So I'm just like, I'm not scared of not owning any Villa. And even that applies to Watkins. Like I could potentially get him in 33, but I might just skip it if the transfers are better spent elsewhere. Isak, for example, against Villa. Isak against Villa in 33 is potentially against Villa after they've just finished.
Yeah, it's fine, isn't it?
A second really tough leg against PSG.
Yeah, and actually, there's a few questions that have come in about this draft, so maybe this is a good chance for you to sense check and all the rest of it. So, Michael, why no Mateta?
Yeah, just basically because, again, nothing's finalised, but I did say on the pods as well, I didn't really like the minutes in the upcoming games. It's a people just sort of, not everyone, but a lot just assume like when he's okay, that's it, he's back in the game, and I just a head injury like that always throws you a bit because it just throws you. I know it can be it's kind of a bit of a narrative, but it's just the way I see it. It always throws you a bit. You've nearly died. You've had a horrendous injury to your head. You've got a big mask on that's blocking out your hearing, what you normally feel. You're not going to want to head the ball in the same way. You're just simply not. That's just the bottom line, because you don't want you. Is any header worth the risk of, a load of stitches coming off and all that sort of stuff? It just throws you slightly, and he's a big, massive unit. He always takes ages to get up to speed.
Yeah, for those who grew up in the 90s, like possibly like both of us, he's very much the Bowser as opposed to the Yoshi.
Yeah, exactly. He's very much the Donkey Kong as opposed to the Peach. Yeah,
nice.
But and we're seeing it. I think it was his second game back already, wasn't it? Or was it his second game back? I think the Southampton game, and he only played. What did he play? 59 minutes, 58 minutes.
Yeah, he got 59, didn't he? Did he get a few bench minutes before that? I'm not sure, but
yeah. So we're seeing a guy who's
before the head injury, he was getting 80s and 90s.
Yeah, it finally picked up. He's like a steam train, isn't he? It takes ages to get going, and then once it does, you can't stop him. But that's a significant shift when you have that sort of injury, and suddenly it's at the same time where Sarr's really fit, and there's no real reason for him to kind of come off. And Eze is the one who was actually spent ages not looking fully fit, ages, and I owned him for a lot of that. And suddenly he's now finally looking like at least he's fit, and he's got some confidence. He scored for England, he's scoring for Palace. He's actually getting regular 90 minutes, which feels like the first time this season, to be honest, which is crazy. So it's taken so long for Eze to get there. And then obviously you've got Nketiah there, who's fully fit. Nketiah is there in the background, who's fully fit and playing well whenever he comes on. So it seems to me that even going into the games, Mateta is the obvious one to bring off. We don't need to bring off the other guys as much. So he's definitely still a good pick, Mateta, no doubt about it. But I like minutes. I want players who are nailed. I do not want to bring someone in who's going to come off in before 60 minutes. I don't want to bring on anyone who's going to come off, to be honest, before 80 minutes, really.
Whilst we're on Palace,
sorry, go on, Richard.
Sorry, no, it's me. It's the Japanese beer kicking in. Whilst we're on Palace, I mean, there's two things that strike me, and it is tricky. I'm guessing that Henderson for you is not so much of an option because, again, you've already got Raya in place, and perhaps you don't feel like you need to do that, and so on. You've also got the issue with your Palace picks there of obviously 2 of the 5 midfield spots. It is quite a commitment, isn't it? I know obviously I think there is a chance, isn't there, that Palace double again later on. I don't know how likely that is, but any thoughts on why you've gone that route?
Yeah, well, I think there's a very, very reasonable chance, isn't there? Because don't they just have to beat Villa in the FA Cup semi-final? Again, I might be a little bit more outside some of the people.
But you're happy holding, for example, 2 midfield spots for all that time?
Well, there's a couple of things to this. In terms of Munoz, for example, over Henderson, one of the things, in line with what we were just saying about getting to 35 and 36, is that naturally, if we're going triple Palace, we've got triple Palace for 32, we've got triple Palace for the double in 33. And like I said to you, when we get to 35, 36, I don't like being in that situation where you're stuck with a team that you've had for those previous doubles and you've only got one transfer. But the good thing about Palace is you're stuck with a team that have actually got quite good fixtures at the end. So they've got something like Wolves and then Spurs. When we get to 36, 35, 36, I think they've got one bad fixture right at the end. Let me just double check so I'm not saying the wrong things. They've got Forest, which is and 35, which is at home, which is okay. And they've got Spurs away, which is a great fixture, and then they've got Wolves at home, which is a great fixture until Liverpool in 38. So it's actually quite handy having your 3 Palace players that have got good fixtures, because you're going to want to change a lot of others. You're going to want to change Newcastle players. actually, therefore, in a way, Henderson's a bit of a waste. You know, if you've got Munoz, you've got someone you're very happy to play, and that's when you're in that situation where you could have loads of injuries. You've got one free transfer. It's game week 35. Your transfers need to be focused on potential doubles. If Palace don't double in 36, you're going to be want to get in Villa players or City players or whatever it is, or Bournemouth players. And actually, it's quite handy the fact that Palace have just got good fixtures. So Munoz is one of, it's not easy to get 3 good defenders out. I think Arsenal have got some good fixtures as well. So it's actually really handy. Whereas with keepers, you're happy to play anyone. I'm happy to play Areola, happy to play whoever I've got there. Do you know what I mean? So I think actually spreading them into the outfield rather than Henderson is more useful at the end of the season than it is having a keeper. It's actually a bit of a waste of having good fixtures in Palace. So that was one of the main reasons over Munoz, plus the fact that obviously he's nailed and he's got good goal threat, and I just think he's a great pick. I did really like Henderson. For example, I would have been happy if it wasn't for what I just said, I would have been happy to go into these doubles, even these tough fixtures. I'd have been very happy to go into them with Henderson and Munoz, a double defence. And I was almost even planning that before I was going to wildcard, because I don't think that I think they've got a really good defence, and I almost have more confidence in those guys than I have for the attackers in those fixtures. So yeah, that's why I've got Munoz in.
Cool. And I mean, I suppose the other things that would be a popular decision this week. I'll come to that question. Oh yeah, about Henderson in just a minute. But I think the other thing is as well is that you've obviously got a reasonable confidence in a few things and not others. So let's start with obviously just one City. What's the thinking there?
Yeah, the thinking is, again, with this draft, with just initial thought, is that I'll get my City players in 33. It's about the bench boost. I could start with Vardiol, and many will, and probably think that you should, but I just don't have any confidence in City against Palace, to be honest.
Yeah, I see what you mean. So you really kind of almost don't especially want him for the next 2 weeks anyway.
Yeah, like he'd be on my bench. He'd don't get me wrong, he's a good pick. City look a bit better. If I owned him, he's a fine play in any game, and I think he looked better last week, and he's probably going to get clean against Man United. I never play, for some reason, it's not fan bias, but I always keep thinking United are going to score, and obviously we should.
Yeah, no, immediately went on my bench. Yeah.
So I just think I could start with him if I wanted, if I could shift it round in a way that it made sense, so that maybe if I, for example, wasn't starting with Saka, which I still might not, maybe, you could start with a Savinho, you could start with a Bumo, I don't know, you could start with other people, then maybe I would find a way to put Vardiol in, so that, because I don't really want to be, because obviously I'm only going to have 2 transfers for 33, and I will want him in 33. So starting with Saka, for example, again, theoretically, all being well, means that I don't have to, I can focus my transfers elsewhere on the likes of Vardiol in 33. I just don't really want him on that bench boost. Like at the moment, if everyone was fit, that my bench boost would be something like Areola, Marmoush, genuinely, and like Saliba and Milenkovic, something like that. Whereas, which is better than Vardiol. I just think Palace will score against City. If I don't.
Yeah. So it's you very likely still bringing him in. Is that what you're saying? Yeah.
That's the plan.
Yeah.
Although I hate. Obviously,
It's quite unlike you to book transfers like that. That's not a normal.
I hate it. But you've got to do what you've got to do. And I hate planned transfers. I always avoid it. But obviously, it's naturally you're always going to have to book transfers when you're going from wildcard to bench boost to another double game week. It's just natural, isn't it? But there's plenty of options. It doesn't have to be. I've got options in terms of those book transfers. It doesn't have to be Vardiol.
Yeah.
It can be lots of different.
No, that's true. That's true. The other thing I suppose that strikes me is that I think a lot of people would have made space for a second Newcastle attacker, especially with Leicester, etc. Murphy, Gordon's still a bit murky in terms of what's going on there. I'm surprised. I've seen so many people bring him in this week, and that's quite bold, I would say. I mean, I'm sure it'll be fine, but it's not obvious for me what's going on there. Murphy, I don't know. There's a little bit, I have a strange kind of what do you call it? Sort of a little weakness for those kind of crap Newcastle sorry, not crap, low priced Newcastle midfielders, because obviously my man love for Joel Linton, but there's nothing to do with FPL, of course. But obviously Murphy quite popular as well, having a pretty good season as well. Not interested in those, or is it just no room at the inn because you want Palmer and so on?
Yeah, I mean, again, when I was not going, before in the initial plan a couple of weeks ago to not wildcard and to bench boost 32, I probably would have got Gordon in. It was also working out quite nicely because of all those wildcards. Suddenly, Gordon became or has become a big differential because if he's fit, he'll be great in the double game week, or at least he is on paper. It was starting to look like. It was starting to look like not many people have got Trippier, so I would have been going in basically. With the players I had, with the non-wildcard team, it was fairly obvious and straightforward. With for example, I don't know, Vardiol to Trippier and like Bumo, who had Arsenal, to Gordon and that sort of stuff. You just can move simple price points to players that were low owned and look potentially great. Now Trippier, I've got a bit less confidence in, which is annoying because he's just picking up these injuries, groin stuff. It's just too risky. Although I still might go there. I still need to think about it. And yeah, Gordon, like I definitely wouldn't bring him in this week because all we know is I know Howe's a liar, but he did outright say like he's still training alone and he doesn't feel 100%. So if you're training alone on Friday, you're not likely to start on Monday night. So he's out the question. And then I've just thought players like Murphy, and again, this is not me saying it's right. It's potentially like a weakness to my game, but I've just got an aversion. I just don't pick players I don't like players who don't get 90 minutes. I just see him again. I'm sure he's more like, I'm sure he's a bit more locked now, but we just don't know when Gordon is going to come back. You don't know who's going to come back and who's going to be fit. And I just have a real aversion to these 60-minute players, 70-minute players, even though he is a good player. I just don't buy them. I don't want them. I want players who are going to play. So I always want to look for where I can find everyone who's going to get all the minutes who I also like as a pick. So I just look at Murphy and think I know people will say, well, I'm only going to play him in 32 on the bench boost and that's it for the season. Well, I don't want that. And especially now with these midfield spots, when you've got potentially Saka back, you've got Salah, and you've got Palmer, who could be Savinho or something like that, anything like that in 33. Yeah. And then obviously it's getting people like Bumo back. I don't want a Murphy sitting there where I've got to find 2-3 million and he's a 60-minute player. I'm just not interested, rightly or wrongly.
Well, actually, this is another one of my final question for you, because we should probably look at another draft in just a second. Again, these are a bit thrown together, so if you're expecting them to be the end product, you might be disappointed tomorrow. But I suppose my final question is, are you laying too much on the line for Palmer here? Because obviously 10.7... it's really presumably for 2-3 fixtures. Are you happy with that decision? I sound a bit like a Great British Menu judge, actually.
And you did, actually. I was just thinking about that, yeah.
Are you happy with the... what did they say? Is it the cuisson?
Yeah.
I've never heard that word anywhere else except for Great British Menu. Cuisson. That is the kind of cook, right? That is the kind of... Yeah.
I think it's the cook, whether it's
happy with the cuisson.
Happy with the cuisson, yeah. No, we had exactly the same. Yeah, we had to make that thing. Yeah, I am happy with the cuisson.
If you're not British, by the way, I apologise. That won't make any sense. Or French, obviously.
Not that it's British, yeah, exactly. Yeah. No, I mean, not even wavered. To be honest, not even wavered. It's not even in consideration. It's just not even in consideration. I mean, he was very good again last night. He looked sharp. He was really pissed off that he was coming off even the 90th minute. He looks such a threat. He's incredible. Obviously, nothing's changed. It's hilarious. It's hilarious that he's like 40% EO, and he's just an absolutely incredible pick. So it's nice to see that lots have come off him. Brentford away is a tough game. Brentford away is a tough game though, and it's obviously he's going from Thursday to Sunday, having had a rest. It's definitely a tough game. But then he's got Ipswich at home in 32. But he's obviously the option to then remove. And it's always scary to remove. Like, I'm not even sure how I'm going to feel about that. So say I did like a Palmer to a Savinho, or I don't know, a City player in 33.
Yeah, what is it? It's Fulham away, isn't it?
Fulham away, yeah.
And you're free hitting 34, I assume. Yeah.
Free hit 34, yeah. No.
Yeah.
again where he's got Everton at home. So and then he's got tough fixtures basically for the running. I think like one good fixture, but even still, even taking him out for a double like Savinho, who's got dodgy minutes, is not easy, because they're not even close. They're not even close to Palmer as a pick. But he's just the opportunity for a double and some extra money. But not even wavered on him as a pick in the wildcard. It's not having Bumo that's probably the most upsetting thing, to be honest, about this about the whole wildcard. Like obviously the two players that I've had now for weeks, and one in particular has done very well, and I'm still very confident in them. And this is my biggest problem with the whole wildcard, is obviously Fernandes and Bumo, and I still think they're both very good this weekend. I'm deeply upset. This is the decision I had to make. How long can you hold on? You've got to go one way or the other. I deeply don't like taking out players that I think are really good and I think can do really well this week. I mean, even Bruno against City. City are not what they were. They're not. They're not been great defensively. I feel good about Bruno. I would feel good going into this game with Bruno. 90 minutes, nailed penalties, set pieces, everything on form, playing really well. And Bumo against Chelsea always seems to do well against Chelsea. I just have to hope. Chelsea looked better last night. They looked better defensively. They looked up for it, looked aggressive. Like Caicedo was really good. Cucurella's on it at the moment. He was really aggressive, and he'll be playing on that side against Bumo, actually. And maybe that gives some hope. But it deeply, deeply upsets me to sell Bumo and Bruno. But I can't justify at the moment, because obviously keeping either one of them, I wouldn't keep Bruno because he's got City and then he's got something else tough, Newcastle away. But Bumo, you could at least think about. I know he's got Arsenal next, but he's just such a good pick. But I can't justify the extra transfer that it would take. I can't see where, like I would, I'd have Palmer over him easily. You know what I mean? So
put it this way: to be honest with you, I even considered switching which week of bench boost to accommodate Mbeumo, because obviously Brighton at home in 33 is pretty decent, right?
Yeah.
But it's because it doesn't really marry up with everything else, so it's really annoying me. I might even bring him in 33. Actually, it's a really strong chance because it's just lovely fixtures for the rest of the year anyway. But you just feel a little bit of that wash of safety, don't you?
Oh yeah, yes, I sleep better and everything. Yeah, just like yeah, more productive at work and just generally happy.
Yeah. Okay, cool. I feel like you've had the floor for long enough, right? I mean, to be honest with you, I'm working on the basis of sort of two slight route changes. I've got a little less money than Danny, probably generally, because I live in a expensive West London where every penny goes on, living expenses. But where are we? Okay.
Yeah, because I haven't seen your team yet. I've not even seen you keep your drafts.
No, and it should be said, by the way, because I suspect I get that people might sometimes tune in if they've been here before, thinking, oh, these guys are more or less sort of boring and the same. I haven't sent you what I put together for our Son of a Gun management thing earlier. They have to pick a team for tomorrow's SKLW tie. And it's kind of one route or t'other, but I'm probably about 0.4 down on you, maybe 0.5, something like that. I haven't been as protective over the funds, sadly.
Remind me. Sorry, Rich. Just going to say, remind me, because I know we're just freestyle. We probably need to talk about captaincy as well a little bit. I know we didn't mention that in that. But
is this intentional? Are you deliberately on Salah, or is it just a? No, you know what I mean, because you might have just put this together.
Are you deliberately captaining the guy who's got the most points in the history of FPL? I'm not against.
Yeah. Basically, that is what I'm asking you.
Yeah. At the moment, I do. This is a problem, though, isn't it? This is again. I have this problem where I do one thing at a time, and it's quite worrying, actually. So you end up thinking about the wildcard until the last second in the deadline, and then you go, "Oh shit, I forgot. I've not thought about captaincy."
Which
so
is
Yeah, I need to give it some thought. But obviously, I've not really thought about the vice there yet. It'd probably be Isak, and I could captain Isak, but I could even, Palmer's an option. But at the moment, I am on Salah deliberately, yeah. So we'll talk about that.
Yeah, I'll like you actually. I haven't really given that any thought whatsoever. I suppose guiltily, I'd assumed that at some point someone would say, "Oh, yeah, Isaac's all right, actually," blah blah blah. But yeah, of course, it is a pretty important decision. It is an awkward week, isn't it? Because there's no. I mean, if you are keeping Palmer, of course, that's an option as well. But you know what Brentford are like. You never know.
Yeah.
You wouldn't. It's one of those awful things. You wouldn't be surprised if he does really well, but equally, you wouldn't be surprised if it all turns out horribly. Because next week is the kind of money game, isn't it? So that's the thing.
It's Thursday to Sunday as well with Chelsea, isn't it? They're Thursday to Sunday, whereas Brentford have had another day's rest or whatever.
Ignore the screen before, especially if you work in higher education. Indeed. No, well, okay, so this is one of a couple of versions. I'm sure you're doing the same sort of thing because I've got a little less money than you, so I'm having to sort of scamper around.
We want the genuine version, Rich. I don't want one of these. None of this black box stuff where they give us about 10 drafts and none of them are actually the real drafts. I want to see what your actual team's going to be.
No, well,
currently going to
be. Okay. So the realistic answer is, obviously a lot of the drafts have got Mateta and Raya and that sort of thing. It's just probably like you. I'm trying desperately to cram Palmer and Saka into the same draft, and it's bloody hard work, basically. So that's the thing, and it's where to make the sacrifice. Really, I'm pretty happy with how it is. So there's probably about 10 players there that are probably not going to change. I've been prioritizing Eze all week over Sarr, and then money is starting to get quite tight if I want to try and squeeze in both Palmer and Saka from the off. So it is tricky. I'm going to have to make some kind of cute call on whether it's not to start with one of Palmer or Saka, whether it's to I don't know, downgrade the Gvardiol role and bring him in later, something along those lines. So that's the tricky thing at the moment. But yeah, Arsenal. I mean, to be honest with you, I haven't got any other drafts screenshotted. Right. So this is the one we're going to have to talk through.
What did you So where are you on basically, like, for example, Mateta versus João Pedro?
I am 1974. No. Actually, if anything, mine probably came in first. Just hasn't seen it. Sorry, ask that again. Mateta.
Yeah, where are you on like Mateta versus?
Yeah, it's difficult, isn't it? Because you're probably like me on this. I remember back to last season, and he battered me. I don't know whether did you have him at all?
Oh God, don't talk to me about that, because that was another last game of the season job, wasn't it? Where I didn't get him for his hat trick on the last game of the season. It's the most annoying thing ever. So yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, it is a difficult one, and he has been in a majority of things simply because at the start of the week you do the thing where you put in all of the people who are most likely to rise a bunch and so on and so forth. So I actually got kind of annoyed with myself because I had to take someone out, and it was Evan Nilsson, and I was like, there is a chance I might keep Evan Nilsson because of course he's probably on penalties at the moment. He's actually playing pretty well. I don't have a massive amount of confidence in, the same level of confidence that I did maybe a week or two back in Bournemouth, but it's still okay. They still got West Ham away and Fulham at home, I think, and I think there is a chance, isn't there, that again they come back and do doubles later on, that sort of thing.
Yeah,
and actually one of my issues with Palace is that I am kind of quite aware that you might hang on to them for a while, and that sometimes you might want not to play them and that sort of thing. So that's one of the reasons why I'm considering Henderson. I very much would prefer having Raya in there, but again, it's just looking at where I can scrimp and save and what I'm willing to chop up, I suppose, in this particular draft. But yeah, as you can probably tell, for those of you that are watching, it's 32 bench boost, so that's why there's a little bit of a Brighton contingent. The keeper might change. It's just a case of where the money spreads, really. But Milenkovic is, I've become attached to him in a sort of spiritual, cosmic sense. So I don't think I can, even though it would solve all of my problems, to downgrade him to Neco Williams. Even though it probably would. It would solve all of my problems.
Yeah.
But I don't know whether I can do it. I feel like I'd be letting down the Brotherhood, because I kind of feel like I started it.
It's so important to I always take this approach, don't I? I guess everyone does, but I lock certain players in, and I just anchor around players that I feel really good about. And obviously, sometimes you have to weigh up certain picks, but yeah, I'm just so comfortable with Milenkovic, and it does feel a bit of a comfort blanket. I just want to leave him there, don't you? And you just, and I know that Williams is good as well, but when you get a guy brought him in first week, I brought him in, and he scores a goal and an assist, and the bloody blank game week. What an absolute legend! Yeah, I'm totally with you. Obviously, it could probably give me some other options, but no, I'm leaving him there. But you're going for the Verbruggen versus Leicester 32, because I could obviously find a way to make that work, but obviously, it's that balance between the 32 good fixture, which is definitely good. I just hate, versus that like I said, that small chance or a reasonable chance. I think Ben Crellin's got it like 25%, whatever the bookies have got it, in terms of the chances of Forest beating City in the cup. Now, I think City will probably win that game just because they've lost the last one, and you know what Pep's like; he'll be up all night coming up with the tactical, game that is required to beat Forest, a bit like he did against Bournemouth. But it is at home; it is at Forest, and Forest are very good, and City are not City. So there's a very reasonable chance that City lose that game. So you're basically, for example, going with someone like Verbruggen for that Leicester fixture, which is great in 32, but then with a 0 chance of having. I suppose you've got Henderson though, so they might double in. That's your play there. So Henderson might double, because again, that's really tough to call. Palace versus Villa in the cup. That's really tough.
I know. To tell you the truth, one of the problems that I have with this is it just seems so instinctively obvious to lock in those 3 Arsenal spots. And to be honest with you, if Timber was fit, again, I'd probably go down that route and it would be fine.
Yeah, you've got Gabriel there, so we don't actually know how much money you've got because it's not Saliba.
Oh God, right. Well, it's not meant to be Gabriel. It's meant.
I'm just wondering what the money change is, because I can't remember how much they all are now and stuff.
Yeah, you're right. Well, anyway, I think from memory, despite what it shows on there, I actually got 2 in the bank there from memory. But anyway, I would have looked at it over and over again.
1-7, yeah, loads 1-7.
But yeah. So I don't know. I don't know how close this is. What we're both like at the moment. Probably more me. I need to wobble through the evening and.
So let's just say, what's your planned route? I know you just mentioned 33, but what's your planned route back to Bumo? So, for example, like one of the things with Sarr and Eze, for me, for example, is it's relatively easy to choose one of them to keep and one of them to sell back to Bumo in 35.
35. Okay. Well, to be honest with you, I've got various plans where I get him back in 33, which I know is a bit. Some might see it as a bit early, but I'm just quite keen to get him back. I think realistically, it's unlikely I go very far without Palmer going in 33. But that said,
well, that's it. So
there might be a way of organising this so that Murphy goes up, but that'll take a little bit of work.
Let's just say then that Savinho plays all the next games and looks great. And then you a double. Then he's going into a really good double. Let's just say you're in a situation where you're more likely to go Palmer to Savinho.
Yeah.
What are you then going to do? You're then just going to, I don't know. You have to find another route maybe to.
Well, not really, because okay, so we're talking about 33, are we?
Yeah. Let's just so hypothetically that you decide you're going to get a doubler and not get Bumo in 33.
Yeah. So in that case, Palmer to Savinho, Murphy upgrade, probably something like that. Okay. It can work.
I like that you love Bumo that much that you think that you get thinking of getting him in Game Week 33 with a single game week. I love it. I love that you love him that much.
No, I do. I like these comfy, safe picks. Basically, as you know, I now have changed my tack in FPL to play, even though it's a game that you can't predict and that causes you quite a lot of emotional distress. My aim is to be as calm as possible and to receive as much safety as I can in another world, unknown world.
But honestly, Brian and Buemo, what a ridiculous... we've got a draft league. I'm in a draft league with Rich and a few of those people, like in our SKLW league, we've got a draft league, whatever. And I was last pick out of 11 of us. So that means I got to pick 2 players first because everyone else had gone. And obviously, alongside Bruno, I managed to get Bumo. Bumo is 11th pick, and the guy is isn't he the second highest scoring midfielder in the game or something?
Yeah, he's equal with Palmer, isn't he?
187 points. I mean, this guy is just... You just always got to, I very nearly started with him in Game Week 1, and I'm still annoyed that I didn't. But you just got to think about what these people who are just 90-minute penalties monsters offer, and it's just so good. It's just a different league to anyone like Sarr or Eze or any of those guys. Just completely different league. Gordon, they're not even close to Boomer. Not even close. There's only Palmer and Salah and the fit Saka who can even have a conversation.
Yeah, I think the other thing that one of the reasons why I tipped the scales against Villa and Bench Boost 33, etc., was because of trying to avoid booking in those transfers and needing to immediately kind of dump Newcastle players, etc. So I think that's the only thing I would probably question in your situation, and to a slightly lesser extent mine, is whether we're content with that process of having to tweak it for 33, especially if we're not bench boosting in that week.
Yeah. What? So you mean? Sorry, I missed the first bit. But you mean like whether we should get like a Villa player in, for example, to not book a transfer essentially for someone extra?
Well, it could be, yeah, or as you say, Savinho, or setting up your Gvardiol now, that type of thing.
Yeah, I definitely want to reduce. I always do. I definitely want to reduce the number of book transfers, and it takes an awful lot for me to. It takes an awful lot for me to not do that. I mean, take for example, Gvardiol. Gvardiol essentially in a game where I, whether rightly or wrongly, right now have very little confidence in City against Palace versus a Newcastle defender with 2 home games, is at the moment enough for me to book a transfer. You know what I mean? So it takes an awful lot. I do not want to be booking in transfers, but also I don't really see it as necessarily booking in transfers, because again, the nice thing with this team and the wildcard is that a lot of these players are just like absolutely brilliant players. So worst case scenario, if one of them's got to play their single game week, I mean, look, if any of the, if it was Isak, Marmoush, I know they've got doubles, but if it was Isak, Marmoush, whatever, Saka, Palmer, Salah, Saliba, Munoz, you'd be happy with any of those players in a single game week. Even João Pedro. So whilst you're booking in hopeful transfers to really like maximize your team, it's actually quite comfortable because you could sort of any 2 transfers between now and 33 should be, worst case scenario, still pretty nice. Still swap into something decent. And because we've got those good teams, you know what I mean? Like Villa, one of the things with Villa is if you're bringing in a Villa player, you get the choice. You get the choice, first of all, about thinking about the rotation closest to the time, about who's got the minutes, who hasn't, who's playing well, who isn't. And you've also got the choice in positions. Whether you want to go Isak to Watkins, whether you want a Rashford or a Rodgers, whether you want a Konsa or a Martinez. There's quite a nice choice there. But it's all choice that you want on the short term. I don't really want pick a Villa player now. And I don't really want, it's not like I'm like, Konsa isn't enough of a pick of a player for me to watch.
No, I struggle with that one. Yeah.
And then I
wouldn't have an issue with having Martinez, but obviously it wouldn't make sense if you have Martinez and Henderson or Martinez and Raya if you're bench boosting 32.
Yeah. And again, like if I it's quite an important point actually, and correct me, anyone who's in the chat if I'm talking rubbish, but again, don't City, if City double in 36, do they double with Villa? Am I right? I think City and Villa might double or something like that. Or is it City and Bournemouth? I can't remember now, but what I want to say is whichever way around it is, especially if you like me and you've got like a Forest defender and a West Ham keeper and you've essentially got 3 City. Again, just like the point I made, I want to be able to be quite selective about who I've got doubling in 36. because with one free transfer, I don't, I do not want to be taking a hit in 37 to field 11, and I don't want one of those players to be Conser if they double. If I've got 4 players who double and one of them is Conser, for example, I don't know, or Rashford or a Rodgers whose minutes suddenly look dodgy, that's really not good. I don't want to be. You don't want to transfer them out, but you don't want to. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah,
I want to be in a position where I've got maybe 3, maybe 4 really solid doublers, or at least potentially really good, maybe Marmoush, Vardiol, whoever else, and I've got the choice to maybe, if I want to, pick of anyone maybe one more really good doubler, and then still be able to get 11 out the week after. Whereas if you stuck with some dodgy Villa player, that might make that more difficult.
Yep. Cool. Yeah. No. I agree. It's interesting, isn't it, that neither of us have gone down the Villa route at this stage. I just find it very difficult to call. In fact, we talked to someone earlier, a good friend of ours, Craig, who's the man on pod, and whilst we probably get some good insight from him on Villa, it's generally, it's even amongst Villa fans, they don't really know how to call it aside from Conser, Martinez, and to a lesser extent Rodgers. They really don't know where it's going to land. I think Tielemans, some people offer, but I mean, you're not going to pick him anyway, right? So it's very difficult to pick them. I just don't know what state they'll be in. I mean, it could be affected by that tie, as you know. Like, for example, it could easily be that the first leg they get down 5-0 and then it changes completely, or they're 1-1 and then suddenly they mass rotate. You just don't know, do you? And that doesn't feel as likely with, say, Arsenal, where it's like, well, Raya has to play more or less. Saliba, kind of, you have to pick him in this situation because of the timber and so on. And then of course Saka, you're going to want him in 33, even if you don't get him now. So it is a different situation with them. Yeah. Anyway, any last thoughts on this one? Obviously, like I say, it's a bit in flex. No doubt I'll be up until about 7 a.m.
Yeah, well, we'll talk more because both all over the place with it. But no, it's pretty similar. Like I said, I'll be interested to see whether you end up with Murphy or not. And there's nothing wrong with Murphy.
No, I appreciate no one's going to want to keep him. Well, I say that it depends on how you work things, right? But you could leave him on the bench forever. But
I wonder if the landscape has changed enough from 30 to 31 that Murphy's maybe less of a pick than he was. Just, I don't know, with the maybe more options in midfield with
the Gordon,
Saka and Savinho. Like people, I mean, Foden's not relevant to us with a wild card, but don't like the look of Foden at the moment at all.
No. Okay, I'm going to say the usual thing that we get in trouble with, but we have a history with this anyway. Again, he's another one of those guys where I'm tempted to use the worst pick in the game line. I don't mean that, obviously he's not, but those kind of players who really lure you in with potential, but genuinely, and let's just kind of throw it out there as an example. Would you rather have Ismail Assar or Phil Foden? Now, one is about how much more than the other? 3.5 million?
Yes, Sarr, and it's not even close.
I mean, if they were the same price, like one is playing 90 minutes, is playing right forward, often is the furthest forward,
Not close.
Neither have set pieces, blah, blah, blah. So it's,
I'd rather have Murphy.
Rather have Murphy. Rodgers is probably a similar level, I think, maybe it's slightly better. So
he's better,
yeah.
Players who play.
Well, yeah. Savinho, I'll be honest with you. He's a bit like, for me, who Evan Nilsson was for you earlier in the season, if you know what I mean. I can't pretend to really have a read on that. Apparently, he's looked quite good and a little bit more direct lately. But I mean, our last evidence was have been easier fixtures, right? With Leicester, etc. So,
no, it's definitely tough. Yeah, I'm the same, and he's looked really good, but I just hate being unsure of someone's minutes. I feel better about him. One of the reasons I feel a lot better about Savinho, and I may even go there, or at least I may go there in 33, is actually also how bad I feel about Foden. Like, it's not looking good. So obviously that increases his chances a bit more. We seem to have a bit of a partnership going with Marmoush. It's interesting with City because you just never know what this sort of evolution is going to do. I mean, Pep, right? I don't know. going off on one here, but he goes through these phases, doesn't he? And everything's going to change now. It'd be interesting to see how City change with this Marmoush setup, Marmoush and Savinho, and a bit more of a, I don't know, maybe a bit more of a link-up play and play in between. Because it's funny, Pep goes through these phases. You remember, like when we originally had Aguero, basically as just an out-and-out goal-scoring goal hanger. He was obviously incredible at just banging in, like 50 goals a season or whatever. But then there was a kind of a realization in Pep's sort of phases and his mode that he was like, he's not running enough, he's not doing enough work, and suddenly Jesus looked really good, and Jesus was suddenly getting in the team over Aguero until Aguero learned how to play differently. We had a Jesus who couldn't finish, he couldn't hit a cow's ass with a banjo, but he did loads for the team and loads of movement and link-up play. And then Aguero had to change his game, and so he did come back and he actually did adapt, and he became this player who was much more of a worker and a link-up player, but he still scored loads of goals because he's brilliant. And then Pep had a change of heart and thought, no, actually, that's not that whole link-up play thing. It's not worked. I need just the guy who's like the best goal scorer in the world to just stand up at the top and just score 60 goals a season. And he won the treble, and he's had that now for 2 years. And I'm not saying that he's going to sort of have a change of heart on Haaland, who's absolutely incredible. But suddenly he, you know how fickle he is. He goes through these phases. We're forced, City have also been absolutely crap all year for their standards. And now we're forced into a different City that might have to play a different way with Marmoush again, who's, he's not an out-and-out striker. It's just going to be interesting to see what implications that has for Haaland even long-term and coming back. If it's successful, if City suddenly look a lot better with a different type of play, could be interesting. And maybe Savinho is more prominent in that. Maybe it's going to be good for him. I don't know. Without Haaland there, it's going to be interesting without Haaland there. It's already interesting watching Marmoush at the moment and Savinho. Yeah. So
I think what's handy about them is that in a way, I know that they are, but they don't feel as affected by a Haaland return as some players that you could pick from City. You feel relatively confident they're still part of the first 11 and they're quite important to the team. So
yeah,
no huge issues there. Whereas Foden, I don't pretend to have the read on that. Good luck to you if you do. But yeah, some people obviously will have them, and it is a difficult decision for them. They probably do have to just pursue it now. But
yeah, I just like last point on that. Like, I've seen a lot of this logic where Foden got a full rest, so I think he'll definitely start the next one, regardless of whether he starts the next game or not. I think that's nonsense. I think that's absolute nonsense. He didn't not start the game because he's not fit. He didn't not start the game because he's having some problems at the moment that have been well documented. So we essentially have no idea if Foden's going to start the next game. He may well, and if he does, fair play, and then he may well not start the next one. But we have no idea whatsoever. It's probably 50-50 at being generous that he's going to play the next game.
Yeah, cool. I've taken it all off the screen. So yeah,
all good.
Who knows where we'll land tomorrow? But I mean, a fair amount of it's set. It's always the different sort of 2 or 3 permutations, isn't it? I think personally, for me, like the biggest decision I have to make is how much to prioritize using transfers in 33. I suppose I had tried to avoid it, but trying to avoid it and having Palmer and Saka at the same time is quite hard work, unless you've got a high team value. So I think that's the thing personally that I'm going to have to continue to have a little tinker with. But how about you? Is there anyone that you feel bad about missing at this point? It's probably just the old favourites, isn't it? The sort of 90-minute penalty guys.
Yeah, it's going to be horrible.
You can't really do much about that, can you?
No, there's always something, isn't there? Whenever you wildcard, you're always removing something. It's very rare you get those weeks where everyone's just looks shit. Your team looks rubbish. And that's great. That's like, how good a wildcard feels. But whenever you're taking out 2 players, and it all depends on how you feel about Palace, really. So taking out Bumo and Bruno for me is really tough because I feel really good about both of them, especially Bumo, always. That could be really painful. But actually, the more and more I think about that Palace-Brighton game, and obviously I'm talking myself into it, it could easily just be a 0-0, but I fancy goals in that game. Both teams have just been, Palace have just, they're both a bit tired in the last game. Brighton just got beaten 3-0, which it didn't don't know. I don't think it was a 3-0 game. You know, that getting beat 3-0 at home, that's a kick in the teeth. And Palace really underperforming against Southampton, and it's a bit of a derby, isn't it? It is a derby. It's a strange derby, isn't it? Geographically, but it's a derby, isn't it? It is a derby. Yeah,
Danny, I'm the representative, as you know, of Southern England, and we don't really have football. Not really. We're more sort of there's a little bit of. I'll put it this way. About a mile away here, I sometimes go past it walking or on the bus towards Richmond. There is archery. Yeah, no, I'm not kidding. Next to the rugby pitch, and a little bit of cricket as well. But we don't really do football in these parts. So Brighton, definitely not a football place. Yeah, I'm going to offend some people, no doubt. Palace a bit more. It's a little bit grittier. It's south of where Crystal Palace really is, and it's a bit more kind of traditional working class, you might say, towards the kind of Croydon direction. But yeah, no, Brighton, no, it's not really. No, come on, we're all telling ourselves a lie. So we're going to lose all of our Brighton watchers here. I don't mean it. It's quite a pleasant place. I like it. It's a good record shop there, actually. So if Resident Record wants to sponsor us, I'd be very happy with that. But yeah, that's for another time. But yeah, no, it's not really a derby, is it? Let's go on.
Well, okay. Well, I'll tell myself it's a derby. They'll be shouting it, right? We bloody is a derby, Palace, Brighton. But yeah, I mean, either way, I just fancy some goals in that game. You know, so maybe we should feel more positively about the Palace boys. Obviously, Sarr got 17 points against Brighton, didn't he, in the reverse fixture?
I was shocked at how many points he's got lately, actually, to be honest with you. I completely had not clocked that at all.
Yeah, so it could go either way, but there could be goals in that game. So, and yeah, I mean, Palace are playing very well, so let's just hope for goals in that game, basically. I think a return for either of the Palace boys will make me feel a lot better, because I wouldn't have had either of them in a non-wildcard team. Any Palace attacker. So other than that, it's I mean, yeah, we'll see. I would have had Vardiol as well, and no doubt United, I expect them to score, and no doubt we should score, and no doubt Højlund and Xerxes and everyone and Garnacho can't finish will miss all the chances, and we'll get beat 1-0 to a Vardiol header. Answer happen.
Yeah, Manchester United will score with a Bruno Fernandes penalty.
I take it, to be honest. Nobody owns him anyway, thankfully. It's been
no, but I have a really horrible, strong feeling that Brian and Bruno will continue their reliable 90-minute penalty selves.
Yeah, but
I'm not worried about them in 32 so much, but 30 this week. Yeah.
There's stuff to be excited about anyway. There's stuff to be excited about. I mean, even Palmer, watching him last night at 40% EO was fantastic. So he looked absolutely brilliant.
Did he? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, he did actually. Yeah, he did. I mean, obviously Chelsea weren't really fluid inside. They looked a lot better with Jackson, but Palmer was just Palmer. I mean, the amount of times I was just watching like a hawk. I just basically watched Palmer for 90 minutes. I didn't watch the game.
Yeah. It was the same with England in the summer. Do you remember? Like even with England when he was coming on for sort of 15, 20 minutes or something. But really, as soon as he came on, you were...
Yeah. And the number of times he could have received the ball and he made these such dangerous runs. And I mean, Sancho was quite greedy on occasion, and so was like Neto and stuff. And the number of times you just think, you do realise, don't you, that Cole Palmer is the best player on your team and you need to give him the ball more often. Like the number of times he was in an amazing position, and he's just he doesn't kick off. He was a nice guy, Cole Palmer. He didn't, he was pissed off when he came off, when he was subbed off, but he shakes the manager's hand, he sits down. He's not a dick at all. He's just what a player. But he looked really sharp. And he looked really good. And looked really dangerous. Deliveries, wanting the ball all the time in dangerous positions. The goal would have been nice for his sort of confidence, I suppose. But at least he got. I mean, I didn't see the booking though. I must have just gone to the toilet for that 1 second. I was like, fuck's sake. He was on for 2 bonus or whatever, and then he just got booked for apparently kicking the ball away or something.
Yeah, still got one. Yeah.
But yeah,
Okay, cool. Well, I guess we'll better leave it here. What did we say we were going to do? We said we were going to do about sort of 40, 45 minutes. I have no idea what the time is. For some reason, the clock on this is turned off, so I don't actually know.
We're coming up to 1:15, which is pretty good for us. It's pretty good.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, take that and run, people. You should enjoy your evenings whilst me and Danny sweat away the small hours trying to worry about whether we're making the right call. Easier for Danny. He's got loads of money, but we'll work it out. We'll work it out by the time deadline comes. But yes, any last words?
No, it's good to see a few people in the chat today. Sorry, I'm trying to work on. I'm still using my phone and working on multi screens and stuff. And you're pretty good at looking at the chat, aren't you? And we've got
do you know what? I have neglected our flock a little bit today, so I apologise if I have. There are some questions in there that I have no way I could answer after a 7% Japanese beer, which was less than the Belgian ones that we had last week in Bruges, to be fair. But like, for example, there's a full team question here from Kevish. So I apologise. Maybe we'll take that off stream and we'll have a look at it if we can. But yeah, that's probably all we've got. Okay, well, good luck to everyone in their endeavours this weekend, especially if you are mulling over similar decisions to us. But yeah, great. Okay, well, good evening, Danny. We'll see you again soon.
See you soon.
Actually, I should say this beforehand. That there may be some quite fruity timings for our future. Well, I mean, as you can probably tell from this week, a bit unplanned. So you stick with us. We will try and make it worth your while. But that we're both on various holidays, etc. So we'll try and crowbar it in. But you might have to look for us.
A couple of weeks, yeah. Well, yeah. Subscribe and you get notifications. Yeah,
that's true. Yeah, subscribe, smash. Just put it in your calendar every day to check it at a certain time, and maybe you'll get something. It's more important than, say, breakfast or sleep or ablutions or whatever it is. No one says that anymore, do they? But yeah, okay.
Like it.
Great. Okay. Well, good evening all, and thanks for joining us. See you later.
See you later.